Me JC and Buck play with us, you put his body in the truck, then we take him to the dump. And they know we play for keeps, and they know that we ain't sweep. Grab a broom, we finna sweep. OBlock finna clean the streets. Boy, you better grab a heat or get put up on a tee.
Hello. Footage straight out of OBlock is going viral right now. Clips show the YNs pressing NBA YoungBoy so hard that his Chicago show reportedly got canceled. He really thought he could slide into the city and diss King Von on his own turf?
You in the city, man. You better perform that old young boy. You talking about? Oh, bro. Shit.
Big mistake. This is when he found out why they call it OBlock for real. Get Back Gang is active and they don't play. But to understand how things got this wild, we gotta break down where all this smoke came from. The beef between OBlock and 4KT has roots deeper than the internet arguments and Instagram lives. To see why OBlock moved like they did, you first gotta understand what OBlock represents and why NBA YoungBoy's name hitting theirs is like gasoline on fire. When people talk about the deadliest blocks in hip-hop, OBlock is always at the top of the list.
Rick and Sean, according to GBI, rapper King Von and his group were at Opium nightclub before making their way here to Monaco Hookah Lounge, then to the parking lot where chaos ensued.
Officially, it's Parkway Gardens, sitting on Chicago's south side off 64th and King Drive. To outsiders, it might just look like another set of low-income apartments, but inside the rap game, that name rings bells like no other. Some call it the most infamous block in America. OBlock wasn't always known by that name. The title came after the 2011 murder of O.D. Perry, a 20-year-old black disciple who was well respected in the area. When rivals allegedly took him out, the neighborhood kept his name alive forever by renaming Parkway Gardens as OBlock. From that moment, the block's name carried serious weight, and as Chicago's drill scene started exploding, OBlock became its face. Chief Keef, Lil Reese, Fredo Santana, these weren't just rappers. They were young voices screaming their truth to the world. When Keef dropped Love Sosa and I Don't Like, millions of kids heard about OBlock for the first time. But this wasn't just music, it was survival. It was violence, loyalty, and pain wrapped in 3-minute tracks. OBlock became more than a neighborhood. It became a brand stamped in blood and culture. Then came the rise of King Von and Lil Durk's OTF, and that's when things hit another level. If Chief Keef put OBlock on the map, Von made sure nobody ever forgot it. Von embodied the block's whole energy. He was charismatic, certified in the streets, and never scared to paint a raw picture of his life growing up there. His Crazy Story series wasn't just rap, it was street folklore in real time. Every verse sounded like he was dragging you straight into a robbery, a shootout, or a survival test. And Von wasn't standing alone. He had Lil Durk right next to him, pushing OTF, only the family, since the early days of drill. Durk had been grinding for years, slowly building his empire, while Von gave OBlock its sharpest voice. Together, they were lethal. Von's raw street energy mixed with Durk's mainstream reach was the perfect storm. By the late 2000s, Durk had gone from a local drill rapper to a certified superstar, linking with Drake, Future, and more. But no matter how far he went, he never stopped repping OBlock. Durk called Von his brother, his twin. Their loyalty was undeniable. When Von blew up, he blew up under the OTF umbrella. And that's exactly why dissing Von or OBlock ain't just disrespecting one man. It's a shot at the whole OTF movement, the whole block, the whole legacy. And that's where NBA YoungBoy comes in. Baton Rouge's wild card. His name colliding with theirs was bound to create chaos. While OBlock was locking down its spot in Chicago's rap legacy, another storm was rising hundreds of miles away in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That storm had a name, Kentrell Gaulden, better known as NBA YoungBoy. YoungBoy's early life was nothing short of chaos. His father got hit with a 55-year prison sentence, leaving him to be raised mostly by his grandmother. By his teenage years, YB was already running in and out of juvenile detention centers, but through all the madness, one thing kept him grounded: music. That mic became his escape route from a world that felt stacked against him. By 2016, he dropped 38 Baby, and the streets went crazy. His raspy voice, aggressive delivery, and raw, unpolished energy reminded fans of early Chicago drill, but with a southern twist that was all his own. YoungBoy didn't rap about champagne bottles or luxury whips. He rapped about shootouts, paranoia, baby mama drama, and pain. Fans connected instantly because they felt every word was ripped straight from his reality. What really set YoungBoy apart was his authenticity. He didn't care about being industry polished or following the rules. While other rappers carefully planned out projects, YB was flooding the streets with mixtapes like they were Instagram posts. Each release only made his cult following grow stronger. Soon, a meme started taking over the internet. YoungBoy better. It didn't matter who dropped, Drake, Future, or Kendrick. Fans flooded the comments with YoungBoy better, turning him into the most polarizing rapper of his entire generation. But with fame came non-stop drama. Arrests, court cases, beefs, probation violations. Trouble followed YoungBoy everywhere. If OBlock's reputation was built on loyalty and violence, YoungBoy's entire brand was chaos and unpredictability. He became the South's wild card, and fans never knew what move he was going to make next. On paper, OBlock and YoungBoy seemed like total opposites. One was a legendary Chicago housing project, the other, a rapper from Louisiana. But the truth was, they were more alike than anyone wanted to admit. Both came from worlds where survival wasn't promised. Both built reputations off raw, uncut storytelling. And both took their pain and turned it into raw power. That's exactly what made their eventual collision so dangerous. Neither side was built to bow down. OBlock lived by loyalty and retaliation. YoungBoy thrived on never folding to pressure. Put those two forces on a crash course and you don't get peace. You get war. And that war found its spark the night Quando Rondo ran into King Von. The spark that lit this whole war came on November 6, 2020, in Atlanta. That night, King Von and Quando Rondo, one of NBA YoungBoy's closest affiliates, crossed paths outside a nightclub. The surveillance footage is chilling to watch. Von walks up to Rondo, throws a punch, and in just seconds, the scene erupts into chaos. Shots explode through the night, and Lil Tim, a close associate of Quando, pulls the trigger. King Von is struck down right there on the spot. For OBlock, it was beyond devastating. Their brightest star, their voice, their brother, gone in an instant. And even though YoungBoy wasn't standing there that night, the streets and the internet wasted no time connecting him to it all. Quando was his artist, his guy, and in their eyes, Von's blood was dripping on YoungBoy's hands. The fallout was brutal. Timelines exploded with blame, memes, and endless narratives. What happened in Atlanta grew into something bigger than Von and Rondo. It became OTF versus NBA, OBlock versus YoungBoy. This wasn't just a street fight anymore. It had transformed into one of rap's deadliest rivalries. Lil Durk poured his grief into music, loading every bar with subliminals aimed at Rondo and YoungBoy's camp. Tracks like Backdoor carried a sharp message, a warning that Von's death wasn't going to fade into silence. Collabs with artists like Lil Baby only amplified that unspoken threat. Von wasn't forgotten, and the war was far from over. Meanwhile, YoungBoy played his role as the unpredictable wild card. Sometimes he brushed the whole situation off like it didn't exist. Other times he poured gasoline on the fire with cryptic lines and subtle disses. Every move he made widened the divide. What started as one street brawl in Atlanta had now spiraled into one of the most infamous rap feuds of the entire generation. And here's why it matters right now. OBlock has always carried a reputation for defending its name at all costs. YoungBoy built his legacy on never folding under pressure, so when YB announced a nationwide tour with a Chicago stop locked in for September 24th, fans didn't see just another show. They saw history colliding on stage. OBlock's grief was still fresh, their loyalty to Von unshakable. YoungBoy's defiance was just as strong, and he sharpened it like a weapon. Through his music, through social media, and now through a tour stretching across the country, he aimed his shots directly at Durk and anyone standing behind him. That's why Chicago was holding its breath. Because this wasn't just a concert. This was Von's pain versus YB's defiance. A rivalry years in the making, now set to play out under the bright lights of the stage. And that leads us right into the next chapter, the tour that has Chicago on edge and young. The announcement alone sent shockwaves through the culture. Some fans were hyped to finally see YoungBoy touch Chicago, but plenty of others instantly pointed out the danger. This city ain't neutral ground for YB. This is home base for Dirk, for OTF, and most importantly, for OBlock. And let's not forget who we're talking about here. YB has a history of turning concerts into pure statements, whether it's stepping out in full bulletproof gear or using stage visuals like subliminal threats. His shows are never just about the music. They're about messages, and the message here is loud and clear. He's not folding to OBlock, he's not scared of Dirk, and he's not letting anybody stand in his way. That's why the air is so heavy heading into this Chicago date. Is September 24th going to be just another stop on his tour, or is it going to be the night when all this internet smoke finally explodes into reality? Because while YB is sending shots from the stage, OBlock isn't just sitting around watching. In fact, some of their own affiliates are claiming they'll be inside the building that night. And that's where things turn dark. The threats, the VIP passes, the online chatter, it's all adding fuel to the fire. As soon as news of YoungBoy's Chicago stop broke, OBlock voices started speaking up, and they weren't whispering. On IG Live, in comment sections, in street interviews, affiliates openly claimed they weren't gonna let YoungBoy walk through their backyard untouched. One OBlock YN member even went viral after saying, "We bought VIP passes to the show." Whether that was trolling or a legit move, it had the internet going crazy. Because if you really know the history between YB and OBlock, words like that don't sound like entertainment. They sound like a setup waiting to happen. The talk didn't slow down either. Multiple OBlock affiliates started hinting at welcoming YoungBoy as soon as he touched down in the city. Memes popped up mocking the idea of him surviving a Chicago show without some kind of incident. Fan pages, blogs, and YouTube channels amplified every single post, making the tension feel even bigger than it might actually be. And that's the scary part. It doesn't take much for online talk to jump into real-life consequences. One IG Live, a couple of screenshots, and suddenly thousands of fans are convinced OBlock has a whole plan in place for September 24th. That type of buzz doesn't just stay on the internet. It spills into the streets, and once it does, there's no telling what might happen next. Meanwhile, OBlock's reputation is what keeps heightening the fear. For years, it's been painted as one of the deadliest hoods in America, and that name alone makes every threat sound 10 times heavier. When you combine that history with YB's defiance, what you get isn't just a concert date. It's a countdown to chaos. Boy using relentless disses like ammo. Tweets have been flying all over the timeline, warning that it's up if YB really dares to touch that stage in Chicago. Even if half the chatter is cap, the very idea of it has created one of the tensest countdowns the rap game has seen in years. And instead of cooling things down, YoungBoy has been adding fuel to the fire at every turn. Midway through his tour, he's been dissing Dirk in his songs, throwing out cryptic posts online, and making it clear he's not ducking anybody. That attitude is exactly why fans believe September 24th could either become the biggest W of his entire career, or the night everything spirals horribly wrong. And here's the part people can't ignore. Chicago police are locked in on this show. Security is guaranteed to be insane. We're talking metal detectors, undercover officers, and maybe even feds planted in the crowd. Because if anything happens inside that venue, it's not just a rap beef anymore. It turns into national news. Another headline about violence in hip-hop. Another spotlight on Chicago's streets. So the million-dollar question hangs heavy. Are we about to see a historic night in rap history, or is all this just smoke and mirrors? A war fought with tweets, lyrics, and subliminals instead of bullets. Either way, with every day closer to September 24th, the tension keeps building. Fans don't just want a concert anymore. They're waiting to see if YoungBoy really steps foot inside the lion's den, or if OBlock makes good on their threats. And with so many eyes glued to one night, one stage, and one city, it won't take much. One wrong move, one spark, for the whole place to blow up. That's why September 24th feels less like a show and more like the calm before a storm. The threats are in the air, the energy is boiling, and YB is still standing tall like he's untouchable. But will it all end in smoke, or will it end in blood? Here's where things get twisted. The internet swore they saw new footage of OBlock YNs attacking YoungBoy on stage. But let's be real. That's rumors talking, nothing confirmed. What's actually real is the countdown to the day YB steps into Chicago, the very core of enemy territory. And that's what makes this story so wild. On one side, you've got YoungBoy, fearless, defiant, and turning every stage into a battlefield with his words. On the other side, you've got OBlock, a name forever tied to King Von, to Chicago's street history, and to Dirk's empire. Two forces that have circled each other for years are finally locked on a collision course. Will it explode into chaos, or will it all fizzle out like another rap beef that never leaves the internet? Only time will tell, but one thing is guaranteed. When that spotlight hits the Chicago stage, every camera will be rolling, every fan will be watching, and every headline will be waiting. Because if something pops off on September 24th, it won't just be a concert anymore. It'll be history. Thanks for watching until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and see you in the next video.